I mean, he was interviewing a coach for a while. Yeah.
Leah, David, Brooklyn, Chris, virtually Luke.
We got our services out.
Okay, yep, I've been saying it multiple times. We what I'd like for you guys to write on, just to kind of get our brains thinking, is why is reading important, or how is reading important for us? Yep, we've been talking about why.
Okay.
I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes to go ahead and write. Ready, set, go. We're going to talk about it. Artie, will you turn to a partner? What's your opinion on reading? Why is reading important? Or maybe you don't think it is. Ready, set, go. Hey, Chris and Riley, would you mind turning your cameras on, please? Thank you. Thanks, friends.
I said, because before like I was gonna put a month because like you get all the stuff off and off, but now it's like, well, it's like why can't I just watch a movie? Like reading is just a movie with like no visual and no sound.
I hate how they updated Google Docs. Yeah.
All right, reading. What are our thoughts on reading? Sam, then I'll grab Scott.
Personally, I feel like reading is also important because there's easier ways to get the same amount of enjoyment from what you love and get from reading a book in like easier ways than just reading.
So maybe reading's hard, is what I'm hearing. It's
But I feel like reading can give more of a detailed description of the world
sure.
that is taking place in.
Yeah, I could see that. Scotty.
Can I read my thing? It's kind of short.
Yeah.
Okay. I said reading is important because it can help us understand more about anything from God and the Bible to a random bird.
True.
It helps us learn pretty much anything we want to. Reading is also important because to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. It challenges our thinking and analyzing skills as well.
Nice. I like your point on to be a good writer, we need to be a good reader. Very, very true. Go for it, Canyon.
I said that kind of like everyday reading, like reading emails or reading directions for something is really important.
Yeah.
But things like interpretation and really like answering that kind of reading is only really important if you're stepping into jobs where you're gonna be like writing or studying a lot.
All right, fair, definitely. I could see that. Jake.
Is Brady on Zoom?
No.
Thank you. Would be on Zoom.
Olivia.
I said reading the book because it helps you like grow your understanding and knowledge of things, and like you can't just like watch a video or listen to something. If you're like trying to learn a language or something,
Yeah.
you need to see it spelled out so you can it can help you like learn how to say it.
Yeah, that's fair, for sure. Brooklyn.
If you kind of ready, you kind of like do a trying to get
True.
kind of be stuff.
You gotta be stuck. There's a lot of practical reading, right? Like everyday reading, and then having books and trying to actually study things. I'm hearing you kind of separate those in itself. Is that true? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you read when you look at those, right? You read the clock, you read the date, you read directions, like you guys are saying. You read subtitles maybe, right? Reading is everywhere. So whether you like it or not, you do it a lot. And you guys are good readers. You're in freshman year of high school, right? You can read. It's just the level of difficulty sometimes gets a little wonky. For To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm very excited to start this book. This is one of my favorite books. I think it's a really powerful book. There's a lot in it that I'm hoping you guys will, after reading it, yes, you are forced to read it because we're doing it in school. And even me as an English person, as an English teacher, I feel like books are instantly less fun when I am required to read them. Do you guys ever feel like that? Like I
don't read books
otherwise, that's fair. But To Kill a Mockingbird, I genuinely really enjoy this book, and I hope that you come to enjoy it as well. The language that's used in it, do you guys remember how old I said the narrator was?
57.
Nope.
6 years old.
6. She's 6, but she talks like she's 57 years old. Okay. She's 6, and the bluntness that she presents everything in is like she's 6. but the word use that she uses is like she's 57. Okay, she uses some big words that are crazy. So it'll be important to look through it and make sure that we can find different spots and look up words if we don't know what they are. Her dad is also a lawyer and teaches her all of those words. So that's kind of, we'll hear some language like that. Okay, I want to run through these 5 slides super fast. Okay, 5 things to know before reading To Kill a Mockingbird. We've talked a lot about before reading. We're actually going to get to read today, which will be really wonderful. It's written by Harper Lee. You guys did some background info on her. Yeah. Oh, why is it? Yes, you're welcome to shut your computer. It's saying that it's presenting on my computer.
It is now.
What? Okay, I'll just keep it like that then. And we'll just roll with that. Okay, so she grew up in Monroeville, Alabama. Have any of you guys been to Alabama before? How would you describe the people in Alabama?
Awful.
Awful, you don't like them?
No, they're annoying as
I
heck.
think they're nice.
Interesting.
Some of them can be nice, but a lot of them are just like really annoying.
That's true, but
Fascinating.
I feel like a lot of people, they're more friendly than they are.
Where are they going?
They are. It's that Southern hospitality. Joe, what about you? What do you think?
I was thinking different.
Oh, okay, fair. Totally fine. Luke, you've been
No, they seem pretty
pretty normal. That's fair. Have any of you guys gone to a Southern place and like experienced Southern hospitality?
Sometimes it's nice, but other times.
Literally, everybody
Yeah.
in the South is so much nicer than you.
They are. They're I went to college in Texas and I went to Baylor, and Southern hospitality is very real. Like people will just invite you over to their house, and not that we don't do that here, but it's just and they'll like put out the red carpet for you pretty much.
You need some sugar, honey?
Yeah, like all of that. So true. But it's also interesting because sometimes it's a little fake. Like the way that they present it, it's so that you think that they're nice, but they're not always. But then other times it's actually true. So it's just like a cultural shift between it, which has been interesting. Was interesting to experience. Let's see, there it is. The book itself was published in 1960. So history is going to be super important with this book, okay? Are any of you guys big history buffs?
No, not
Love
at all.
it. All right, a couple. This is during the Civil Rights Movement. So Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is 3 years after this book is published. Jim Crow laws, have you guys learned about those before? And it's the whole concept of separate but equal. The United States was still under the expectation that Black people can't go where white people go. Black people are less than white people. And the Civil Rights Movement was trying to change that, obviously. And that's where Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech comes from. Well, in that, women weren't able to like give speeches or didn't have very many rights either. So what's interesting is this book is very well known for advocating for changing the laws that were in place, like allowing segregation to leave and not be something that exists anymore. But Harper Lee she didn't have a whole lot of rights in herself. So in order to put her voice out there and try and show people that Black people have just as much humanity, just as much rights as white, she wrote this book. And it's inspired by the Scottsboro brothers case. So we're going to look more into that when we start the court case in the book. But essentially, The book is split. I'm going to jump down to part 5, is split into 2 parts. So chapters 1 through 11 is all about childhood lessons, growing up in Macomb, introducing characters. It's a lot of like getting to know the town in fun ways. The book it's really engaging with that. But part 2, it's all about this court case that comes to town and how the Finches, which is the main character's family, deals with that and Macomb deals with it. So beginning is more like daily life, what's going on, and then second part is going to be the court case. Yeah.
That's a tire swing, right?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, isn't that kind of fun?
Scott?
What?
I love it.
What? Is that what you thought it was? Yeah.
I know, but you didn't say it.
That's okay. It does. I mean, that's something that's from this era, though. Like the Ku Klux Klan and stuff are in existence during this. So, okay. Setting is in Macomb, Alabama. It's a fictional town. It's based off of Monroeville, Alabama, where Harper Lee grew up. It's super rural. So these are not in a town, like it's very small. And there's this kind of distinction between those who are farmers and then people who live like in town, the town folk. So the people who live a little bit more in a suburby type area, but pretty much it's all very rural though. And then it happens over the span of 3 years, 1933 to 1935. The Great Depression is happening. So everyone is really poor, right? All of the economics in the United States are super run down. Everyone is really struggling right now. So even people who usually are pretty well off, they're having to kind of work off what they can get. So that's kind of the setting that's happening within America. Okay, last thing I want to touch on is the characters. So the narrator is our 6-year-old girl named Scout Finch. So her nickname is Scout, and that's what she'll go by. And it's around the Finch family, which is Atticus Finch, who's the father, Jean Louise Scout Finch, and then Jeremy, but Jem Finch is how he goes. So those are what?
There's no mom.
There is no mom. She's passed away. We find that out in the very beginning of the book. So, okay, sound good? Let's go ahead and pull out our books. I'm excited to get started with this. Okay, when we are reading, I do want to be clear about a couple things. So one is that I need you to have your book open and be following along. So you do not have your electronics out. You don't have other homework out. You are looking at your book, listening, working together to try and figure this out. And listen to what the story's being told. I have in front of me To Kill a Mockingbird questions. Yeah, Luke. I have an extra, no worries. There you go. You're welcome. I'm going to hand out a list of questions that we're going to run through as we go through our reading and kind of break up so that we're not reading the entire rest of the class. I am fine if you write on this while we're reading, like if you figure out an answer as we go. The questions are in order, which is nice. So we'll be able to follow along with those. Sound good? Okay, so let me hand this out and then you guys can have that. Kim, do you need an extra book too?
No, I have mine.
Okay,
Carlos, next time you that's that guy that said.
Okay. First thing that we're going to learn is about Jem. Oh, one more thing. This book is set in a time period where there's language that is used that we do not use today. We'll talk a lot more about that later in some chapters, but it's also in a culture, so like a rural culture where people talk differently, and it was published in a time where there's different meanings towards it than there are now. Some of that is there is swearing in this book, okay? So when we read aloud, we're not going to say the swear words, but they are there. So just be prepared for that and know that they exist in the book. A lot of that is the purpose of it is to showcase a type of culture that the people are in, a culture that's more rough around the edges, more blunt. And also, it's interesting that like a 6-year-old girl is saying it, right? So it has a different tone than it would otherwise. Yeah. Absolutely. If I can find one.
I don't know.
You can grab a pen or pencil. Yeah. Okay. Also, while we're reading, I think it'd be really great for you guys to be annotating in your book if it's yours. So underline things, summarize when you can find it, have different spots or quotes that you like, words that you maybe don't know. That is always a good thing to do. All right, here we go. We're just going to do a little bit in the beginning. Page 1, chapter 1 of part 1. All right. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jem got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed and Jem's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged. Assuaged means to satisfy or make less intense. So like he was satisfied with the fact that he could play football again. He was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was so much shorter than his right. When he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to his body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared less, so long as he could pass and punt. When enough years have gone by to enable us to look back on them, we sometimes discuss the events leading to his accident. I maintain that the Yules started it all, but Jem, who was 4 years my senior, said it started long before that. He said it began the summer Dill came to us. Then when Dill first gave us the idea of making Boo Radley come out. Okay, what is number 1? What happened to Jem when he was nearly 13? I love it, Brooklyn.
Arm badly broken.
Yep, his arm was badly broken. So this entire book is about the story of how Jem's arm got broken. Okay, that's kind of like yeah, it's all leading up to that.
Actually?
Hmm?
Oh, this spoiled the whole book.
No, I didn't.
No,
It says it right here. Don't even worry. So the whole book is the events leading to his accident. See? And she says that the Yule started it, but Jem said it started way before that. We have a couple names thrown around of Yules, Dill, Boo Radley. These are characters that we'll have to know. I think part of the hardest part of this book is figuring out who everyone is. So we'll work on that too. All right. I said if he wanted to make a broad view of the thing, it really began with Andrew Jackson. If General Jackson hadn't run up the creek, Simon Finch would never have paddled up the Alabama. And where would we be if he hadn't? We were far too old to settle an argument with a fist fight, so we consulted Atticus. Our father said we were both right. Who's Atticus? Their father. All right.
Why does the girl like call that?
Yeah, isn't that weird? Why do you think?
Because maybe that's the culture that they're from.
Maybe that's the culture they're from. Maybe it's the culture of their family. You'll kind of see their relationship. It's interesting. This book is written from Scout's point of view years later, right? She's looking back and telling us the story of this, but she's getting into her 6-year-old mind in order to do it. So she's not that much older, but she's kind of going back toward it. Okay, the next part is super boring, and I'm so sorry. If you can get through these next pages, everything in the book is way more interesting, all right? She just rambles on and on about background, so we got this. We can work through it, but just be aware. I know it's boring, okay? Being Southerners, it was a source of shame to some members of the family that we had no recorded ancestors on either side of the Battle of Hastings. All we had was Simon Finch, a fur-trapping apothecary from Cornwall, whose piety was exceeded only by his stinginess. In England, Simon was irritated by the persecution of those who called themselves Methodists at the hands of more liberal brethren. And as Simon called himself a Methodist, he worked his way across the Atlantic to Philadelphia, thence to Jamaica, thence to Mobile, and up to St. Stephen's, mindful of John Wesley's structures on the use of many words in buying and selling. Simon made a pile practicing medicine, but in his pursuit, he was unhappy lest he be tempted into doing what he knew was not for the glory of God, as the putting on of gold and costly apparel. So Simon, having forgotten his teacher's dictum on possessing the human chattels, brought 3 slaves and with their aid established a homestead on the banks of the Alabama River, some 40 miles above St. Stephen's. He returned to St. Stephen's only once to find a wife, and with her established a line that ran high to daughters. Simon lived to impressive age and died rich. Whoa. All right. Turn to someone near you. What was that paragraph about? Ready, set, go. All right, what was that whole paragraph about? What on earth was happening? Joe?
The story of Simon Finch.
Yeah, the story of Simon Finch. I love it. What else?
I feel like he's like their ancestor or like grandparent almost.
Yeah.
Who like established their home where they live.
Good.
And like started it all off.
Yep, you totally got it. David, what else?
I actually have a question on how you should answer that one.
Yeah. Okay. How did Simon Finch make his money?
He's like a doctor.
He was a doctor for a little bit. How else did he? Because he returned to Australia and wants to find a wife. Yes. He was a fur trapper. Jeez. And bought and sold stuff. Yep. Fur trapper and merchant. They trap animals like rabbits and stuff and then sell the pellets in order to like make hats and think like Davy Crockett, like with the raccoon on his head, like raccoon hat. It's stuff like that. Okay, so we're learning about how the Finch family got to where they are. Like, why on earth are these people in Maycomb? Here's like the long history behind it, essentially. Also, we learned that they have no record of ancestors on either side. What does that mean, that the Finches, about the Finches? Yeah, Scotty.
They don't have like honor in terms of like
Yeah.
the war.
They're not, yeah, no honor in the war, so other people look weird at them, right? Look at them weird. So they're not like other Southerners. So that's going to be important, the fact that they're not like other people, right? All right. It was customary. Okay, it was customary for the men in the family to remain on Simon's homestead, Finch's Landing, and make their living from cotton. The place was self-sufficient, modest in comparison with the empires around it. The landings nevertheless produced everything recorded to sustain life except ice, wheat flour, and articles of clothing, supplied by riverboats from Mobile. Simon would have regarded with impotent fury the disturbance between the North and the South, as it left his descendants stripped of everything but their land. Yet the tradition of living on the land remained unbroken until well into the 20th century, when my father, Atticus Finch, went to Montgomery to read law, and his younger brother went to Boston to study medicine. What is Atticus Finch's job? He's a lawyer. Yep, he's a lawyer. Their sister, Alexandra, was the Finch who remained at the landing. She married a taciturn man who spent most of his time lying in a hammock by the river, wondering if his trout lines were full. What is taciturn? A little bit. It's like very reserved. They don't say a lot, like saying little. So if someone doesn't say a whole lot, they're kind of reserved, uncommunicative, just kind of like sullen into themselves. For sure.
So the husband of Alexander Finch is a fisherman, basically?
Yeah, essentially he doesn't do anything.
He just chills there for fishing.
He just fishes for fun. Yeah. When my father was admitted to the bar, is this the bar that you go drink at?
Yeah.
No. What is the, do you guys know what the bar is, Olivia? Yeah, it's a law exam. So if you pass a test, you are admitted to the bar. So like you can practice law, essentially. He returned to Maycomb and began his practice. Maycomb, some 20 miles east of Finch's Landing, was the county seat of Maycomb County. Atticus's office in the courthouse contained little more than a hat rack, a spittoon. What on earth is a spittoon? It is. It's where you spit. People who used to chew tobacco would spit into the spittoon, which is disgusting. But what?
Very cool.
Very COVID safe, right? Super. I love it. A checkerboard and an unsullied code of Alabama. His first two clients were the last two persons hanged in Maycomb County Jail. Atticus had urged them to accept the state's generosity in allowing them to plead guilty to second-degree murder and escape with their lives. But they were Haverfords. In Maycomb County, the name synonymous with donkey. Okay, essentially, people here have reputations, right? They're super stubborn, and they are known as like families who are in certain have certain reputations for what they're like. So just like here, I bet you could even pick out like families who are known for being really generous or are known for being super kind or always like are ready to give you a ride, or maybe ones that are always super grumpy, right? It's the same kind of concept. The Haverfords had dispatched Maycomb's leading blacksmith in a misunderstanding arising from the alleged wrongful detention of a mare, which is a female horse, and were imprudent enough to do it in the presence of 3 witnesses. Imprudent means like dumb enough to do that, and insisted that the blah, blah, blah had it coming to him. It was a good enough defense for anybody. They persisted in pleading not guilty to first-degree murder, so there was nothing but Atticus could do for his clients except be present at their departure, an occasion that was probably the beginning of many fathers' profound distaste for the practice of criminal law. So Atticus doesn't like doing criminal law. He likes doing more like buying and selling land or like setting up businesses and stuff. Yeah, real estate, that kind of stuff, for sure. During his first 5 years in Macomb, Atticus practiced economy more than anything. For several years thereafter, he invested his earnings in his brother's education. John Hale Finch was 10 years younger than my father and chose to study medicine at the time when cotton was not worth growing. But after getting Uncle Jack started, Atticus derived a reasonable income from the law. He liked Macomb. He was Macomb County born and bred. He knew his people, they knew him, and because of Simon Finch's industry, Atticus was related by blood or marriage to nearly every family in the town. Okay, that tells us about Atticus, right? If you were to put down 3 adjectives to describe Atticus, what would they be? Talk with a partner and then write them down like on your sheet somewhere. How would you describe Atticus?
I don't really know. A little bit.
All right, if you were to describe him in 3 adjectives, what are some of the adjectives we would make? Kaden, give me one. What? He's not rich.
Well, who's the rich guy?
That was Simon Finch. Yeah, his relative. How else would we describe him? Atticus?
No, that's the taciturn. You're good.
That's the father. That's okay. Hardworking. He does work very hard. He's a lawyer, yeah. But what type of lawyer, right? Friendly? He knows everyone, right? For sure. Olivia, give me another one.
I don't know like one specific adjective, but he's very interested in real estate money.
Yeah, so a businessman. You could roll with that. That was really aggressive. Good. Okay. He's very serious too, right? He's also generous. He helps his brother, who studied medicine, right? Okay. We've now learned about Atticus and the background. Now we're going to get into learning about Macomb, so the actual town. So listen for how you would describe Macomb itself. Macomb was an old town, but it was a tired old town when I first knew it. In rainy weather, the streets turned to red slop. Grass grew on the sidewalks. The courthouse sagged in the square. Somehow it was hotter then. A black dog suffered on a summer's day. Bony mules hitched to Hoover cars flicked flies in the sweltering shade of the live oaks on the square. Men's stiff collars wilted by 9 in the morning. Ladies bathed before noon, after their 3 o'clock naps, and by nightfall were like soft tea cakes with frosting of sweat and sweet talcum. Talcum is like a powder. It's like a perfumed powder that people would wear. People moved slowly then. They ambled across the square, shuffled in and out of the stores around it, took their time about everything. A day was 24 hours long, but seemed longer. There was no hurry, for there was nowhere to go. Nothing to buy and no money to buy it with. Nothing to see outside the boundaries of Macomb County. But it was a time of vague optimism for some of the people. Macomb County had recently been told that it had nothing to fear but fear itself. Do you guys know who said that first? We have nothing to fear but fear itself.
I did.
It's a president.
John F. Kennedy.
Close.
George Bush.
No, George Bush hasn't been president yet. No. Frederick Douglass, haha, FDR did it. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So FDR said it first. This is his first time being president. So he's president twice. This is his first inaugural address. And remember, the Great Depression's happening. So in that, he says, we have nothing to fear but fear itself during it. Okay, we just heard a little bit of a description between make 'em. We have right here, number 6 is a question. Can you try and answer that with someone around you? So try and answer number 6. This is online for you guys who are online, so you can find it.
This one's something we can put, make a little, there's no very. I mean, first, about the people who live there, and
All right, Jake, what are you guys doing? Okay, give him back his phone. Okay, put the phone away. Your computer should also be away, Jake. All right, how will we describe make 'em based off this? I love it. Jace. Totally, that's a great way to describe it. Washed out. Love it. Canyon. Depressing. Luke. Poor. Absolutely. Everyone there's definitely poor. Sam. No economy. Yep. Joe. Chill. Yeah, everyone just kind of moseys along, right? Go for it, Scotty. Uneventful. Absolutely. Brooklyn. Hot. Yeah, it's super hot in the summers, right? Super hot in the summers. Love it. Okay, we're going to put our book down for just a second. This is how make 'em is described. Can you go ahead and pull out either like a piece of paper, or you can pull out your computers again. Love it. No, you're going to have to answer other questions on there though. Okay, what I want us to do is a quick like writing activity. How would you describe your town that you live in? So I don't want you to just, hold on, listen. I don't want you to just tell me the words, right? I want you to show them to me. So when there's something in writing that we do that's show versus tell. If you're telling me something, it's very direct. It's, we were bored, okay? But if you're showing it to me, you're describing to me how you're bored. So we laid on the floor watching flies buzz around our heads as the heat continued to melt into our bones, right? You can kind of feel everyone's kind of sluggish. So I want you to try and use as much sensory detail, which is descriptive language that uses all 5 senses. So you need to have sight, smell, taste, touch, and feel in your description. Yeah, Luke. Yep. In your description, that is going to tell me about your town. Yes, Olivia.
So for like specific things, it really depends on like different seasons. Is there like are you saying
Pick a season. Yep, any season you want. Totally up to you. Yes, you do. You can smell things. unless you got COVID. But even then, think about like the flowers that bloom or things that are around you that could smell. Yeah, write it in a Google Doc and then there'll be a spot to turn it in. So tell me, show me what your town is like. So remember, we're not going to just say my town is boring or my town is cool. Okay, you have to show me how it is. So explain in detail with it. English one. Carlos, what you doing? Okay.
I don't know if Jake lives in North Carolina.
I know where Jake lives.
Remember, you need something from every sense in your response.
How many, there's 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even Jake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got it. Okay.
my name is the football game, so instead of in football.
Okay, if you're done, while we're waiting for everyone else to finish, can you make up a town? Tell me about a town and make one up.
Oh, I was already doing that.
Okay, so now do it about yours.
Oh.
It's okay. Yeah, David.
About a town in which I used to live in.
Sure.
About the town I used to live in, let's just say that.
Wait, how are we supposed to like write it down?
What's up?
Like, are we just writing like it's chill or like that, or are we like getting like?
Getting descriptive. Yep, be as descriptive as you can.
For the second one, should we make like, can we do it on the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do it on the same. All right, turn to someone around you and read your paragraph to them. Pick one that you like better. That's okay. That's okay. Yep.
And I read it in a country accent.
All right, did everyone's, are you ready to share them out? Still going? Okay. I love it. All right, does anyone's partner have a really good story that you think they should share? Carlos, do you want to share one line from your story? Just try one line. Okay, I'll grab David right after Carlos.
I said mine was like, it's like, it's only like really nice. Like the downtown part is really nice when it's like
Oh, cool. Love it. Christmas time. Go for it, David.
So basically, here's one of my sentences. So in the summer, you could experience something you can't experience anywhere else. The white night. The sun almost never sets, and I always thought it was a magical experience. So in St. Petersburg, it's actually a thing. Like there's like 10 days from like June to July where like the sun almost literally doesn't set even like at
Really?
light outside.
Really? Cool. Your description was really beautiful too. I like the color white too with it. Nice job. Jace, go ahead and find your seat again, please. Anyone else want to share? You can just do one line. Olivia! And then Luke has one. You got nominated.
My little spot at the here, not really anything. Many people, it seems like a road trip to get there from Union County, but the drive is not as long as it should. It doesn't feel as long as it should. Seymour does not have a lot of things to offer if you're looking for city sites. It's not next, but it does have an incredible festival in the midst of October where you can see beautiful pumpkin sculptures and get a nice feeling of the city. The town next to us is the hometown of the College of Northern Illinois University, but other than that, we're not widely known. In the summer, there are so many things to do. My favorite are laying on the freshly cut grass while throwing a football around or riding go-karts outside with friends if I'm feeling the wind in my face. But my favorite thing is riding my bike to pick up a delicious cold strawberry smoothie and then heading to my favorite little shopping town. Sycamore does grow beautiful art. The town is not always great though, but worst thing about it, in my opinion, is probably in the spring or summer, waking up and smelling manure on the way to school or when outside.
Ew.
It's not horrible or even that strong, and you definitely get used to it, but it's not very times where I come after a couple of days, it's just a big process, which just gets annoying.
Yeah, that's gross.
Sycamore,
Sycamore.
it's an hour away from here, and so
You live an hour away?
yeah, but it's just for my dad, but my mom lives in San Francisco.
Okay, so she's closer too. I love it. Thanks for sharing, Olivia. That was really well done. All right, Luke, you got nominated. Do you want to share just one sentence? That's fine. You can share all of it, or if you just want to share one. Okay.
In the summer, all the trees and grass is green, but in the winter, all the trees and the grass are covered in white.
Ooh, that's my favorite snow. Like this snow where it's like even the tree branches have snow on them. That's it's so pretty. I love it. Canyon.
I said just one part that I said is our town's pretty average. One of the reasons because we experience all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Everything about this place is just normal average.
The way it's supposed to be. Like, I love it. Do you live around here in West Chicago? Nice. All right. There is a spot on campus to turn that in. So go ahead and stick it in there. And then open our books back up to, yeah, go for it. Joe, you can go too. It's fine. All right, we are on page 6. We're opening our books back up after turning in our writing activity. Mhm. All right, and when you have it turned in, you can go ahead and put your computers away. Great, yeah. All right, go ahead and take your computer away when you're done turning that in. We won't need it for the rest of the class. All right, we're at the bottom or the middle-ish of page 6. We lived on the main residential street in our town. Atticus, Jem, and I, plus Calpurnia, our cook. Jem and I found our father satisfactory. He played with us, read to us, and treated us with courteous detachment. Would you ever describe your dad as just satisfactory? Maybe, but it's not necessarily like how you would want to describe them, right? Like, they're fine, they do the job, but they're just there. Calpurnia was something else again. She was all angles and bones. She was nearsighted. She squinted. Her hand was wide as a bed slat and twice as hard. She was always ordering me out of the kitchen, asking me why I couldn't behave as well as Jem when she knew he was older, and called me home when I wasn't ready to come. Our battles were epic and one-sided. Calpurnia always won, mainly because Atticus always took her side. She had been with us ever since Jem was born, and I had felt her tyrannical presence as long as I could remember. Tyranny, a tyrant. Do you guys know that word? It's a person who rules with an iron fist, right? Someone who, like a dictator is often a tyrant. Someone who's like authority, a bad authority, essentially. Okay. Our mother died when I was 2, so I never felt her absence. She was a Graham from Montgomery. Atticus met her when he was first elected to the state legislature. He was middle-aged then. She was 15 years his junior. Jem was the product of their first year of marriage. 4 years later, I was born. And 2 years later, our mother died from a sudden heart attack. They said it ran in her family. I did not miss her, but I think Jem did. He remembered her clearly, and sometimes in the middle of a game, he would sigh at length and then go off and play by himself behind the car house. When he was like that, I knew better than to bother him. How did their mom die? Heart attack. Why does Scout not like really miss her?
Because diet.
Yeah. Okay, so didn't really know anything about didn't know her, so couldn't really miss her presence with it.
Have we gotten question number 7?
What's up?
Have we gotten question number 7 yet?
How would you describe? No, not yet. We haven't met Dell. Okay. What does he do for a living? What's his job? Yep. When I was almost 6 and Jem was nearly 10, our summertime boundaries within calling distance of Calpurnia were Mrs. Henry Lafayette DeBoe's house, 2 doors to the north of us, and the Radley place, 3 doors to the south. We were never tempted to break them. The Radley place was inhabited by an unknown entity, the mere description of whom was enough to make us behave for days on end. Mrs. DeBose was plain hell. Okay, so have your parents ever told you, like, don't go past the corner, right? Or like when you were little and playing outside, like, don't go outside of our yard, or, right? Yeah. Sure. Yes, we can go over that. Okay. So, absolutely. Let's do it. All right, number 4. Why do you think Scout and Jem call their father Atticus rather than Dad? Now that we know a little bit more about him and them. Yeah, Olivia.
I said because he was a lawyer and he was so serious, maybe like he wanted his kids to think that way, not all.
Yeah. He's a very serious guy, right? I don't think there's a wrong answer to this question. It's very opinion based, but it's their relationship, right? Like, he is a very big authority. So Dad is very endearing. Like, when you call Dad or even Daddy, right? Like, you call someone that and you have like a close relationship with them. But Atticus is a little bit more distant. So calling him Atticus kind of showcases that. That's a good question. All right, number 6. Based on the time period of the story, what's going on in history in the story? Do we remember?
Civil Rights Movement.
The Civil Rights Movement, yep. And the Great Depression. Good job. Macomb and the people who live there from the Pauling Passage. So we read that. What can we infer about the Macomb people? Sam? Yes, we already went over 2. So if you need help with that, you can ask a partner. What about number 6? What did we write down for here? 3 you can find. We're on 6 right now.
Poor and uneventful.
Poor and uneventful. Yeah. What else, Olivia?
I was just gonna say nothing much is happening there. It's not
Yeah.
super like industrialized or like fancy.
Good. Nothing fancy, right? Nothing super fancy. They also are very trustworthy of the government, right? Like, they're told they have nothing to fear, so they're not fearing it. They're very slow, a vague optimism. They don't often leave, too. They're often just there. All right, we are coming up on number 7. We made it through the boring part, by the way. So now the story actually happens. So you made it through this, so we're doing good. All right, here we go. That was the summer dill came to us. Every time I hear the name dill, I think of dill pickles. So I think that's always funny. Early one morning, as we were beginning our day's play in the backyard, Jem and I heard something next door in Miss Rachel Haverford's collared patch. We went to the wire fence to see if there was a puppy. Miss Rachel's rat terrier was expecting. Instead, we found someone sitting looking at us. Sitting down, he wasn't much higher than the collards. Collard greens. Have any of you had collard greens?
Yeah, my mom tries to feed them to me all the time.
They're kind of nasty to me too. I don't like them, but that's the food that they are eating. Collard greens, it's like lettuce. It's like a really it's like a waxy lettuce. Yeah.
It's like a mix between kale and lettuce.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It's totally like that. It's very bitter, and people often cook it with butter and bacon, like in the South, which in order to make it taste better. Yeah. They're yippy and they're loud. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Hey yourself, said Jem pleasantly. I'm Charles Baker Harris. He said, I can read. Is that how you introduced yourself? Hello, my name is Miss Strzalka. I can read. That's great. So what? I said, I just thought you'd like to know I can read. Got anything needs reading? I can do it. How old are you? Asked Jem. 4.5? Going on 7. Shoot, no wonder then, said Jem, jerking his thumb at me. Scout's yonder been reading ever since she was born, and she ain't even started to school yet. You look right puny for going on 7. I'm little, but I'm old, he said. What does he mean by that? I'm little, but I'm old. What in the world, Scotty?
He's like mature, but he's not like his body has
Good. He's more mature than his age, right? Jem brushed his hair back to get a better look. Why don't you come over, Charles Baker Harris? He said, Lord, what a name. It's not any funnier than yours. Aunt Rachel says your name's Jeremy Atticus Finch. Jem scowled. I'm big enough to fit mine. He said, your name's longer than you are. Bet it's a foot longer. Folks call me Dill, said Dill, struggling under the fence. Do better if you go over it instead of under it, I said. Where'd you come from? Dill was from Meridian, Mississippi, was spending the summer with his aunt, Miss Rachel, and would be spending every summer in Macomb from now on. His family was from Macomb County. Originally, his mother worked for a photographer in Meridian. Has entered his picture in a beautiful child contest and won $5. She gave him the money to Dill, who went to the picture show 20 times on it. Don't have any picture shows here, except Jesus ones in the courthouse sometimes, said Jem. Ever see anything good? Dill had seen Dracula, a revelation that moved Jem to eye him with the beginning of respect. Tell it to us, he said. I love this because have you ever like not really known someone super well and then you start telling a story and you're instantly friends? Or you both have read the same book or seen the same movie or like the same TV series. So now you're instantly friends, right? It's kind of the same concept, like Dracula, vampires, like kind of crazy. Therefore, like they're absolutely starting to like become good friends. Dill was a curiosity. He wore blue linen shorts that buttoned to his shirt. His hair was snow white and stuck to his head like duck fluff. He was a year my senior, but I towered over him. As he told us the old tale, his blue eyes would lighten and darken. His laugh was sudden and happy. He habitually pulled at a cowlick at the center of his forehead. When Dill reduced Dracula to dust, meaning he like talked it to the ground, right? Just kept going. And Jem said the show sounded better than the book. I asked Dill where his father was. You ain't said anything about him. I haven't got one. Is he dead? No. Then if he's not dead, you've got one, haven't you? Dill blushed and Jem told me to hush, a sure sign that Dill had been studied and found acceptable. What is Scout like? Pushy, super pushy, right? Does she know social cues? No. Granted, she's 6, right? She's young. She's not even in school yet, but she has no idea social cues. She just says whatever comes out of her mouth. Do you guys know anyone like that? That they just say whatever they're thinking? It's kind of like that. All right. Therefore, the summer passed in routine contentment. Routine contentment was improving our tree house that rested between giant twin Chinaberry trees in the backyard. Fussing, running through our list of dramas based on the works of Oliver Optic, Victor Appalachian, and Edgar Rice Burroughs. In this matter, we were lucky to have Dill. He played the character parts formerly thrust upon me, the ape in Tarzan, Mr. Crabtree in the Rover Boys, Mr. Damon in Tom Swift. Thus, we came to know Dill as a pocket Merlin, whose head teemed with eccentric plans, strong longings, and quaint fantasies. Okay, number 7. How would you describe Dill, and why do you think Scout and Jem are friends with him? Go ahead and work with it on it with a partner. Ready, set, go.
I think they're friends with him because he's good at telling stories, he's relatable. They're not all the same size. He doesn't have a dad and they don't have a mom, so it's
First of all, I think
All right, our little pocket Merlin, our mini Merlin, someone who acts like a Merlin, can kind of make things come out of thin air. How would we describe him, Brooklyn?
They're both like relatable.
Dill is relatable?
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And that's why, Scout and Jem are able to relate to Dill?
Yeah.
Got it. Totally. They are able to relate. Olivia, then Scotty.
Kind of like optimistic or has like odd like ideas, because he says at the end he has like eccentric plans, strange drawings and
Yeah, good. He's like stuck in his head, right? He loves stories, loves like fantastic things. What about you, Scotty?
I said because he's outgoing, he's not really like a pushover.
No.
He stood up to Jem, which kind of earned his respect.
Yeah.
And they both lost a parent, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't have one parent.
Good.
So that kind of might bind them together a little bit.
Love it. Absolutely. Sam, then Canyon.
I feel like Jim is more creative and interesting. Like he's very creative in sort of aspect of kind of going off of books and creating them and like kind of doing play.
Yeah, their whole play, how they play is really interesting, right? So they don't watch TV, like TV isn't a thing, movies aren't really things. So whatever books they read, they like make shows off of them, which is fun. Totally. Canyon, how about you?
Because Jem and Scout are asking Dill like so many questions and like keep him talking, I feel like Dill thinks he's cool now because he's telling stories and talking stuff. So.
Totally. There you go. Dill is cool. I love it. All right. So we learned a little bit about Dill. Good description of him. I think that's totally on point. This next part, the rest of the chapter is going to deal with the legend of Boo Radley, or the legend of the Radleys, as we're coining it. So it'll hit number 8, 9, and 10 within it. Okay, so remember, where they can play is kind of squashed between the Dubois, Mrs. Dubois, who is super mean, okay, and then the Radleys, who's everyone's scared of. Everyone is like terrified of the Radleys, and we're gonna find out why. All right, the Radley place I missed it, sorry. But by the end of August, our repertoire was vapid from countless reproductions, meaning like vapid is, they have nothing challenging in it, nothing new. And it was then that Dill gave us the idea of making Boo Radley come out. The Radley place fascinated Dill. In spite of our warnings and explanations, it drew him as the moon draws water, but drew him no nearer than the light pole on the corner, a safe distance from the Radley gate. There he would stand, his arm around the fat pole, staring and wondering. The Radley place jutted into a sharp curve beyond our house. Walking south, one faced its porch. The sidewalk turned and ran beside the lot. The house was low, was once white with a deep front porch and green shutters, but had long ago darkened to the color of the slate gray yard around it. Rain-rotted shingles drooped over the eaves of the veranda. Oak trees kept the sun away. The remains of a picket drunkenly guarded the front yard, a swept yard that was never swept, where Johnson grass and rabbit tobacco grew in abundance. Inside the house lived a malevolent phantom. Ooh, what is malevolent? Yeah. It's like having or wanting to do evil to others. So how, if you were to describe the house in a word, like the tone of it, how would you describe it? Haunted. Yeah, Sam. Dark. Jake. Oh, got it. Jace.
I don't know if this is correct wording or malicious.
Totally. I think malicious. Absolutely. Joe.
Eerie.
Eerie. It's the spooky house, right? Every town, every neighborhood's got that like spooky house that everyone's like, what's happening there? All right. People said he existed, but Gemini had never seen him. People said he went out at night when the moon was down and peeped in windows. When people's azaleas froze in a cold snap, it was because he had breathed on them. Any stealthy small crimes committed in Maycomb were his work. Once the town was terrorized by a series of morbid nocturnal events. People's chickens and household pets were found mutilated. Although the culprit was Crazy Addie, who eventually drowned himself in Barker's Eddy, people still looked at the Radley place, unwilling to discard their initial suspicions. Okay, this is one of the words that we had cultural context back then. So this word was often used instead of colored people or African American. This is not a word that you should ever call anyone. Is that understood?
100%.
Okay, do not call people this word. It is unkind and does not, it's thought of as dehumanizing now. So it's not something that we're going to call people, okay? The N word also shows up in this book later, and we'll talk a lot about why it shows up and what that looks like. But Negro is also one that we just do not want to call people. Would not pass the Radley place at night. He would cut across the sidewalk opposite the whistle as he walked. The Maycomb school grounds adjoined the back of the Radley lot. From the Radley chicken yard, tall pecan trees shook their fruits to the schoolyard, but the nuts lay untouched by the children. Radley pecans would kill you. A baseball hit into the Radley house was a lost ball and no questions asked. The misery of that house began many years before Jem and I were born. It does sound like Sandlot. Totally. Absolutely. Cam, you can put your computer away. We don't need it. Have your book open, okay? The Radleys welcome anywhere in town kept to themselves. Predilection, unforgivable in Maycomb. They did not go to church. Maycomb's principal recreation. Something that's a recreation, what is it? Yeah, Scotty.
It's like a thing that people do, like a fun thing.
Good, like a fun activity, like a hobby, essentially. But worshipped at home. Mrs. Radley seldom, if ever, crossed the street for a mid-morning coffee break with her neighbors, and certainly never joined a missionary circle. Mr. Radley walked to town at 11:30 every morning and came back promptly at 12, sometimes carrying a brown paper bag that the neighborhood assumed contained the family groceries. I never knew how old Mr. Radley made his living. Jem said he bought cotton, a polite term for doing nothing. But Mr. Radley and his wife had lived there with their two sons as long as anybody could remember. Okay, your homework for the weekend is to finish chapter 1 and finish answering these questions. So we're going to talk about chapter 1 and the rest of it on Monday. And then you guys are going to intern in these questions. They're also online when we have it. Cool? Yep, if you finish them. I don't think you should be able to. Oh, did you read ahead? Yeah, just even until Monday so that I have it.